Hello everyone, I'm very happy to see all of you guys again here. Are you going for the interview, for the role of Python developer or data scientist? You guys might be worried, what interviewer will ask to you? Then do not worry, this video is absolutely for you. In this video we will discuss top most asked questions and answer in Python interview. That will help to you to land your dream job. Before starting this video, I would like to request you, if you are new on this channel, please like and subscribe this channel. It will not take more than 1 second, even it'll not cost you anything. Thanks. Let's start today's topic. What is Python? And what are the benefits of using Python? Python is a high-level, interpreted, and dynamically typed programming language. Python is known for its readability, easy-to-learn syntax, and versatility, making it a great choice for beginners and experts. Benefits. Easy to learn, Python has a simple and straightforward syntax, making it easy to learn and write code, even for those who are new to programming. Versatile. Python can be used for a wide range of tasks, including web development, data analysis, machine learning, scientific computing, and more. Plenty of libraries. Python has a vast collection of libraries and modules, which makes it easier to perform complex tasks without having to write code from scratch. Good for prototyping. Python's simple syntax and fast development time make it a great choice for prototyping and testing ideas. Next question is, what is a dynamically typed language? A dynamically typed language is a programming language where the type of a variable is determined at runtime, rather than at compile time. This means that the type of a variable can change during the execution of a program, and that variables can be assigned values of different types during their lifetime. For example, in a dynamically typed language like Python, you can assign an integer value to a variable and then later assign a string value to the same variable. This is in contrast to statically typed languages like C or Java, where the type of a variable must be declared when the variable is created, and the type cannot be changed afterwards. Dynamically typed languages like Python offer greater flexibility and can simplify the development process, as they allow developers to focus more on the logic of their programs and less on the declaration of data types. However, this flexibility can also lead to runtime errors, as type mismatches can occur without being detected by the compiler. Next question, what is PEP 8 and why is it important? PEP 8 is the style guide for writing Python code. It was created to ensure that Python code is written in a consistent and readable manner. It provides guidelines for naming conventions, indentation, line lengths, and other aspects of coding style. PEP 8 is important for several reasons. Consistency. By following PEP 8, you can ensure that your code is consistent with the coding style used by the vast majority of Python developers. This makes it easier for others to read and understand your code, and helps to avoid potential coding conflicts when working on larger projects. Readability. PEP 8 is designed to promote readability, making it easier to understand code and avoid common coding pitfalls. Collaboration. PEP 8 helps to promote collaboration and sharing within the Python community by providing a standard coding style that everyone can follow. Maintenance. Code that is written in accordance with PEP 8 is easier to maintain and update, as it is more readable and less prone to errors. Next question, what are lists and tuples? What is the key difference between lists and tuples? Lists are defined using square brackets, and are mutable, meaning that you can add, remove, or modify items in the list after it has been created. Lists are also dynamic, meaning that the size of a list can change as you add or remove items. Tuples, on the other hand, are defined using parentheses, and are immutable, meaning that once a tuple has been created, you cannot change its contents. Tuples are also fixed size, meaning that their size cannot be changed after creation. The key difference between lists and tuples is that lists are mutable and tuples are immutable. This means that lists can be changed, while tuples cannot. Because tuples are immutable, they are often used to store values that are constant and should not be changed, such as a collection of data that represents a point in space, a date, or a color. Next question: what is pass in Python? In Python, the pass statement is a placeholder statement that does nothing. It is used in situations where a statement is required syntactically, but no action needs to be performed. For example, when you define an empty class, you can use the pass statement to prevent the interpreter from raising an error. The pass statement is a useful tool when you need to include a statement in your code, but don't want it to perform any action. It acts as a placeholder for future code, and helps ensure that your code remains syntactically correct. Here is the example of pass statement. Next question: what are modules and packages in Python? In Python, modules and packages are ways to organize and structure your code into reusable and manageable units. A module is a single Python file that contains Python definitions and statements. Modules provide a way to separate your code into logically organized and reusable components, making it easier to maintain and reuse your code. For example, you might have a module that defines a set of functions, a module that defines a set of classes, or a module that defines a set of variables. A package is a collection of modules that are organized in a directory structure. Packages provide a way to group related modules together, making it easier to manage and distribute your code. For example, you might have a package that contains modules for working with image files, a package that contains modules for working with database connections, or a package that contains modules for working with web services. Here is the example of module and packages. Next question: what are global, protected and private attributes in Python? Global attributes, attributes that are declared outside of any class or function, are considered to be global attributes. They are accessible from anywhere in the code, and can be modified from any scope. Global attributes are usually denoted by capital letters, for example, global_variable. Protected attributes, attributes that are prefixed with an underscore, example. Underscore protected attributes are considered to be protected. This is a convention used to indicate that the attribute should not be accessed directly from outside the class, but can be accessed from within subclasses. Private attributes, attributes that are prefixed with two underscores, example. __ private attributes are considered to be private. This is a convention used to indicate that the attribute should not be accessed directly from outside the class. When a private attribute is accessed, its name is mangled to include the class name, making it difficult to access from outside the class. For example, the private attribute __ private attributes would be mangled to _class name __ private attributes. Next question: what is the use of self in Python? In Python, the keyword self is used to refer to the instance of an object within a class method. It is used to access the attributes and methods of the current object. Here's an example of how self is used in a class. In this example, the __ init__ method uses self to set the name and age attributes of the object being created. The say_hello method uses self to access the name and age attributes of the current object. When you call a method on an object, Python automatically passes the object instance as the first argument to the method, which is usually referred to as self. This allows you to access the attributes and methods of the object from within the method. Next question: what is break, continue and pass in Python? Break, continue, and pass are keywords in Python that are used to control the flow of a loop. Here's a brief explanation of each. The break keyword is used to exit a loop prematurely, when a break statement is encountered, the loop is immediately terminated and control is transferred to the first statement following the loop. The continue keyword is used to skip the current iteration of a loop and move on to the next iteration. When a continue statement is encountered, control is immediately transferred to the next iteration of the loop, without executing any remaining statements in the current iteration. The pass keyword is a placeholder that does nothing. It is used when you need a statement for syntactic reasons, but don't want any code to be executed. Here is the example of break, continue, and pass keyword. Next question: what is slicing in Python? Slicing in Python is a way to get a part of a list, a string, or an array by specifying the start and end points. It's like cutting a piece of a long rope, or a portion of a big pizza. You can tell Python exactly where you want to start cutting, and where you want to stop. Slicing is a useful way to extract parts of a large data structure and work with smaller, more manageable pieces. Here is the example of slicing in Python. Next question: what is the difference between Python arrays and lists? In Python, both arrays and lists can store collections of items, but there are some important differences between them. Built-in functions. Lists have more built-in functions and methods available than arrays. For example, lists have the append method to add items to the end of the list, while arrays don't. Performance. Arrays are more efficient than lists for numerical operations, but lists are more flexible for inserting and deleting items, and for working with heterogeneous data. Data type. Arrays must contain items of the same data type, whereas lists can contain items of different data types. What are Python namespaces? Why are they used? In Python, a namespace is a container that holds a set of identifiers, for example, names that correspond to objects such as variables, functions, and classes. Namespaces are used to prevent naming conflicts between different objects in a program, allowing you to use the same name for different objects in different parts of your code. Here is the example of namespace in Python. Next important question is: what are decorators in Python? In Python, a decorator is a special type of function that takes another function as input and returns a modified version of that function. Decorators allow you to add additional functionality to existing functions or classes without modifying their code. They are a powerful and flexible tool that can be used to extend and modify the behavior of functions and classes in your code. Here is another example of decorator function in Python and how we can call decorator function. Next most important question is: what is lambda in Python? Why is it used? In Python, a lambda function is a small anonymous function that can take any number of arguments, but can only have one expression. The expression is evaluated and returned when the function is called. The lambda keyword is used to create a lambda function. Lambda functions are a concise and readable way to define short, throwaway functions in Python, and they can be used to make your code more concise and expressive. Here is another example of lambda function to calculate the sum of all element in a given list. Next question is: what is scope resolution in Python? Scope resolution in Python refers to the process of determining the namespace in which a variable or object is defined. Python uses a scope hierarchy to determine the scope of an identifier like variable, function, class, etc. There are two main types of scopes in Python: global scope and local scope. Global scope. The global scope is defined at the top level of a module and includes all identifiers that are defined outside of any functions or classes. Identifiers in the global scope are available throughout the module and can be accessed from any part of the code. Local scope. Local scopes are created within functions and classes and include all identifiers defined within them. Identifiers in local scopes are only accessible within the function or class in which they are defined and are not accessible from outside of that scope. When you access an identifier, Python searches for it in the local scope first and then, if it's not found, in the enclosing scope. If it's still not found, Python continues searching in the global scope and then in any imported modules. This process is called scope resolution. Here is an example of global scope and local scope in Python. Next most asked question is, what is pickling and unpickling? In Python, pickling and unpickling are the processes of converting a Python object hierarchy into a byte stream, and vice versa. The term pickling comes from the word pickle, which means to preserve food by storing it in a jar with vinegar. Pickling is used to store a Python object hierarchy, example, a list, a dictionary, or a custom object, in a byte stream format, which can be saved to disk, sent over a network, or stored in a database. The byte stream can then be recovered using the unpickling process to recreate the original object hierarchy. Pickling and unpickling are useful for preserving the state of a Python program across multiple runs, for transferring data between processes or over a network, and for storing complex data structures in a database. However, it's important to be cautious when unpickling data from untrusted sources, as malicious code can be included in the byte stream and executed when unpickled. Next most important question which interviewer asked in every interview. What are generators in Python? Generators are a special type of iterator or a special function in Python, used to generate a sequence of values one at a time, instead of generating all the values at once in a data structure like a list or a tuple. The main advantage of using generators is memory efficiency, as the values are generated one at a time as they are needed, instead of being stored in memory all at once. Here is another example of generator function in Python. Next question is, how are arguments passed by value or by reference in Python? In Python, arguments are passed by reference, meaning that the function receives a reference to the object, not a copy of the object itself. This means that any changes made to the argument inside the function will affect the original object, and persist after the function has completed. However, it's important to note that Python does have some data types, such as numbers and strings, that are immutable, meaning that their values cannot be changed. In this case, when a function receives an immutable object as an argument, any changes to that object will actually result in a new object being created, rather than modifying the original object. Next important question, explain split and join functions with example in Python. The split and join functions are string methods in Python used to manipulate strings. The split function is used to split a string into a list of substrings based on a specified separator. For example, if you have a string, hello, world, and if you use the split function with a comma as the separator, the function will return a list with two elements, hello and world. The join function is the opposite of split function. It is used to join a list of strings into a single string, using a specified separator. For example, if you have a list contains two elements, hello and world, and you use the join function with a comma as the separator, the function will return the string hello world. Here is the example of split and join function in Python. Next question is, what are negative indexes and why are they used? Negative indexes are used to simplify access to elements at the end of a sequence. For example, if you want to access the last element of a list, you can use an index of -1 instead of having to calculate the length of the list and then subtract 1. This can make the code more readable and concise. Next question, how do you access parent members in the child class? In Python, you can access parent class members in the child class using the super function. The super function returns a temporary object of the parent class, allowing you to call its methods. Next question is, differentiate between new and override modifiers. New The new keyword hides the definition of the base class method and gives a new definition in the derived class. As we all know, override implements polymorphism, which says I want to use the same method but in various classes with the same signature of methods. So let's see why we need override and how we can use it in our applications. Next question: what is init method in Python? Init is a special method in Python classes, also known as a constructor. It is automatically called when an object of the class is created, and it is used to initialize the attributes of the class. Next question is: what are the new features added in the newest Python version? Structural pattern matching. This new feature allows you to perform powerful and concise matching of data structures, like tuples and lists, with pattern matching syntax. Vector call, a new calling protocol for fast calling of built-in functions and methods with improved performance. Improved type hints. Several improvements have been made to the type hint system, including support for structural pattern matching and improved error messages. Function signature changes. A few changes have been made to the signature of built-in functions to improve consistency and functionality. Next question is: what are Python modules? Answer is: in Python, a module is a file that contains definitions and statements. A module can define functions, classes, and variables, and it can also contain executable statements. Modules can be imported into other modules or into the main module, the module that is executed when you run a script. The purpose of modules is to organize related code into reusable and maintainable units. By dividing your code into modules, you can reduce the complexity of your code and make it easier to understand, maintain, and reuse. Next question is: name some commonly used built-in modules in Python. Here are some most used built-in module in Python. 1. OS. This module provides a way to interact with the operating system, such as reading or writing to the file system, executing shell commands, and manipulating environment variables. 2. Random. This module provides functions for generating pseudorandom numbers and for shuffling sequences randomly. 3. Datetime. This module provides classes for working with dates and times, such as calculating the difference between two dates, formatting dates as strings, and parsing strings into dates. There are several other Python built-in modules available ready to use. You can read more about on official documentation. https://www.python.org/doc. Next question is Python case sensitive? Answer is: yes, Python is case sensitive. This means that the names of variables, functions, and classes, as well as the names of keywords and built-in functions, must be written in a consistent case throughout your code. For example, the code will result in a name error if the names of the variables are not written in a consistent case. Next question is: what are functions in Python? Here is the answer. In Python, a function is a block of organized, reusable code that performs a specific task. Functions allow you to encapsulate a piece of code and call it multiple times from different parts of your program, without having to repeat the code. Functions are defined using the def keyword, followed by the function name and a set of parentheses that may include parameters. The code inside the function is indented and is executed when the function is called. Here is the example of Python function. Next question is: how can you randomize the items of a list in place in Python? Answer is: in Python, you can use the random module's shuffle function from the random module to randomize the items of a list in place. This will produce a random order of the items in the list each time you run the code. Note that shuffle modifies the list in place and does not return a new list. Here is the example of randomize the items of a list in place using random module. Next question is: what are docstrings in Python? Answer is: in Python, docstrings are strings that provide documentation for a module, function, class, or method. They are placed at the beginning of the code block, inside triple quotes, either single or double quotes, and serve as the first line of documentation for the code. Docstrings are optional but highly recommended, as they provide valuable information to other programmers, including yourself, who are reading the code. They are also used by various tools, such as the help function and automatic documentation generators, to extract and display information about your code. What is a dictionary in Python? In Python, a dictionary is an unordered collection of key-value pairs, where each key is unique and used to retrieve its associated value. Dictionaries are implemented as hash tables and are optimized for fast lookup and retrieval of values based on their keys. Dictionaries are created using curly braces, or the dict constructor, with keys and values separated by colons. Dictionaries are very useful in many scenarios, such as counting the frequency of words in a text, storing configuration settings, and more. What is the use of len function in Python? The len function in Python returns the number of elements in a sequence, such as a string, list, tuple, etc. What are the advantages of using Python NumPy arrays? There are several advantages of NumPy arrays in terms of speed, memory efficiency, convenience, compatibility, etc. Let's discuss one by one. 1. Speed. NumPy arrays are much faster than nested Python lists, due to their highly optimized C implementation. 2. Memory efficiency. NumPy arrays use less memory than nested Python lists, as they store data in a contiguous block of memory. 3. Convenience. NumPy arrays are more convenient to use than nested Python lists as they provide more advanced operations and functions. 4. Compatibility. NumPy arrays are compatible with many other scientific computing libraries and functions, making it easier to integrate them into complex data processing pipelines. Next question is, does Python have OOPS concepts? Answer: yes, Python supports object-oriented programming or OOPS concepts such as classes, objects, inheritance, polymorphism, and encapsulation. Next question is, how is multithreading achieved in Python? Answer: multithreading in Python can be achieved through the threading module. The thread class in the threading module provides a way to create and run threads in a Python program. To create a new thread, you can create a new instance of the thread class and pass a function or method to be executed as the thread's target. Next question is, what are Python libraries? Name a few of them. Answer: Python libraries are pre-written collections of code that provide a set of functionalities and can be used to perform specific tasks in a Python program. They are designed to make it easier for developers to perform complex operations and provide a faster way to implement common tasks. Here is the few popular Python libraries are: 1. NumPy, for numerical computing with arrays. 2. Pandas, for data manipulation and analysis. 3. Matplotlib, for data visualization. 4. SciPy, for scientific computing. 5. Scikit-learn, for machine learning and data analysis. 6. TensorFlow, for machine learning and deep learning. Next question is, what is use of split function in Python? Answer: in Python, the split method is used to split a string into a list of substrings based on a specified separator. The separator can be any character, and by default, it is white space. The resulting substrings are stored in a list, and the list is returned as the output. Next question is, what is the difference between object-oriented programming and structured programming? Answer: object-oriented programming and structured programming are two different software development approaches. In object-oriented programming, the emphasis is on creating objects that encapsulate data and behavior, whereas in structured programming, the focus is on breaking down a program into smaller, well-structured parts that can be easily understood and maintained. In an object-oriented programming approach, objects interact with each other through methods and messages, whereas in structured programming, control flow structures like if-else statements and loops are used to control the execution of a program. Both approaches have their own advantages and disadvantages, and the choice between the two often depends on the specific requirements of a project. Next question is, why we should use object-oriented programming or OOPS? Answer. Object-oriented programming is a popular programming approach because it offers several benefits for software development. Firstly, object-oriented programming provides a way to organize code into reusable and modular components, which makes it easier to maintain and extend the code over time. Additionally, object-oriented programming enables developers to model real-world objects and their relationships, making it easier to understand and work with complex systems. Another advantage of object-oriented programming is that it supports encapsulation and abstraction, which helps to minimize the impact of changes to one part of the code on other parts of the code. This makes it easier to maintain and update the code as requirements evolve. Next question is, what are the main features of object-oriented programming or OOPS? Answer. The main features of object-oriented programming are encapsulation. This is the process of wrapping data and behavior within a single unit or object, which helps to protect the data and ensure that it is only accessible through an object's methods. Abstraction. This is the process of hiding the underlying complexity of an object and exposing only the essential features, making it easier to understand and use. Inheritance. This is the mechanism by which a new class can be created by inheriting properties and behaviors from an existing class, making it possible to reuse and extend existing code. Polymorphism. This is the ability of an object to take on multiple forms, depending on the context in which it is used. This allows for more flexible and dynamic code that can be adapted to different situations. Classes. A class is a blueprint for creating objects, which defines the properties and behaviors that the objects created from that class will have. These features allow object-oriented programming to provide a way to organize, structure, and manage complex systems, making it easier to build and maintain large, scalable applications. Next question, what is monkey patching in Python? Answer. Monkey patching is a technique in which you modify or extend the behavior of a class or module at runtime. It is often used to add new features or to modify existing features in a way that does not require changing the original code. This can be useful in situations where you don't have control over the source code, or where you want to add or change behavior temporarily or for specific use cases. Next question, does Python support multiple inheritance? Answer. Yes, Python supports multiple inheritance, which means that a class can inherit from multiple base classes. This allows you to create classes that inherit properties and behaviors from multiple sources, making it easier to reuse and combine existing code. Next question is, what is polymorphism in Python? Answer. Polymorphism is a key concept in object-oriented programming that allows objects of different classes to be treated as objects of a common type. This makes it possible to write code that can work with objects of different types in a generic way, without having to know the specific type of the object at runtime. Next question, what is static polymorphism? Answer. Static polymorphism, also known as early binding or compile-time polymorphism, refers to the behavior of an object in which the type of the object and the method to be called are determined at compile time. This means that the exact method to be called is known before the program is executed. Next question, what is dynamic polymorphism? Answer. Dynamic polymorphism, also known as late binding or runtime polymorphism, refers to the behavior of an object in which the type of the object and the method to be called are determined at runtime. This means that the exact method to be called is not known until the program is executed. Next question: what are the main difference between overloading and overriding? Answer: method overloading is a feature of object-oriented programming that allows a class to have multiple methods with the same name but different parameters. This allows the class to perform different actions based on the arguments passed to the method. For example, a class might have two methods with the same name, but one takes an integer argument and the other takes a string argument. When the method is called, the correct implementation will be selected based on the type of argument passed to it. Method overriding, on the other hand, is the ability of a subclass to provide a different implementation of a method that is already defined in its superclass. The purpose of overriding is to change the behavior of a method in the subclass to provide a more specific implementation. Next question: explain encapsulation and how we can achieve in Python. Answer: encapsulation is a fundamental principle of object-oriented programming that involves bundling data and methods that operate on that data within a single unit or object. In Python, this is achieved by defining class methods and attributes. Next question: what are access specifiers in Python? Answer: access specifiers are keywords in object-oriented programming that define the level of access to the members, for example attributes and methods of a class. The access level of a member determines who can access and modify it within the program. Here is the following access specifiers in Python. 1. Public. Members declared as public can be accessed from anywhere within the program. 2. Private. Members declared as private can only be accessed within the same class. They are prefixed with two underscores in Python, example. __ private member. 3. Protected. Members declared as protected can only be accessed within the same class and its subclasses. They are prefixed with a single underscore in Python, example. _protected member. Access specifiers help to enforce encapsulation by controlling the visibility and accessibility of class members. By limiting the visibility of certain members, the implementation details of a class can be kept hidden from other parts of the code, making it easier to maintain and modify the code in the future. Next question: what is the difference between multiple and multilevel inheritance? Answer: multiple inheritance is when a class inherits attributes and methods from multiple parent classes. It allows a class to inherit the characteristics of more than one parent class. For example, if a class child inherits from two classes parent 1 and parent 2, it will have access to the attributes and methods of both parent 1 and parent 2. Multilevel inheritance is when a class inherits from a parent class which in turn inherits from another parent class. It creates a hierarchy of inheritance where a class can inherit from a parent class, which in turn inherits from another parent class, and so on. For example, if a class grandchild inherits from a class child which in turn inherits from a class parent, then grandchild will have access to the attributes and methods of both child and parent. Next question: what are the limitations of inheritance? Answer: inheritance is a powerful feature in object-oriented programming that allows classes to inherit attributes and methods from parent classes. However, it also has some limitations. Complexity. Inheritance can increase the complexity of the code, making it harder to understand and maintain. When classes inherit from multiple parent classes, the relationships between classes can become difficult to understand, especially when inheritance hierarchies become deep and complex. Overuse. Inheritance should be used carefully and only when it is the most appropriate solution. Overuse of inheritance can lead to complex, inflexible, and hard to maintain code. Next question: what is data abstraction in Python? Answer: Data abstraction is a technique used in object-oriented programming to separate the implementation details of a class from its interface. It refers to the act of exposing only the necessary information about an object to the outside world, while hiding its internal details. What are virtual functions? Answer. In Python, virtual functions, or duck typing, is a feature of the dynamic typing system that allows a method or function to be called on objects of different types, as long as they implement the required method or interface. This is done based on the type of the object at runtime rather than the type declared in the code. Next question is, what is a constructor? And what are the types of constructor in Python? Answer. A constructor is a special method in object-oriented programming that is automatically called when an object is created from a class. The purpose of the constructor is to initialize the attributes of the newly created object. There are two types of constructors in Python. Default constructor. If a class does not have an __init___ method defined, Python provides a default constructor that does not take any arguments and does not initialize any attributes. Parameterized constructor. If a class defines an __init___ method, it is a parameterized constructor, and it can take any number of arguments and initialize the attributes of the newly created object accordingly. Next question is, what is a destructor in Python? Answer. In Python, a destructor is a special method that is automatically called when an object is about to be destroyed. The purpose of a destructor is to perform any necessary cleanup operations, such as freeing resources or closing files, before the object is destroyed. Next question is, what is difference between a class and a method? Answer. A class in Python is a blueprint for creating objects, which defines a set of attributes and behaviors that the objects created from the class will have, while a method is a function that is associated with a class and operates on objects created from that class. Here is an example of a class and its objects in Python. Next question is, what is an exception in Python? Answer. An exception in Python is an event that occurs during the execution of a program that disrupts the normal flow of the program's instructions. Exceptions are raised when a runtime error occurs, such as dividing by 0 or trying to access an index that is out of range. When an exception is raised, the normal flow of the program is interrupted and the program execution is transferred to the nearest exception handling code. Next question is, what is a map function in Python? Answer. The map function in Python is a built-in function that applies a function to each item of an iterable, such as a list, tuple, or string, and returns a map object with the results. The map object can be converted to other Python objects, such as a list, using the list or tuple constructor. Here is an example of map function in Python. Next question is, do we need to declare variables with data types in Python? Answer. No, in Python, you do not have to explicitly declare variables with data types. Python is dynamically typed, which means that the type of a variable is determined automatically based on the value assigned to it. This allows for greater flexibility and makes it easier to write and maintain code, as you don't have to specify the type of each variable up front. However, it can also lead to potential type errors if you're not careful, as the type of a variable can change during the execution of a program. Next question is Python fully object-oriented? Answer. Yes, Python is considered a fully object-oriented programming language. This means that almost everything in Python is an object, including numbers, strings, functions, and even modules. In Python, classes are used to define custom objects, and objects can have attributes, also known as instance variables, and methods. Python supports inheritance, polymorphism, and encapsulation, which are the three main principles of object-oriented programming. Next question is, What is the difference between append and extend methods? Answer. The append method adds an element to the end of a list as a single item, while the extend method adds all the elements of an iterable to the end of a list. Next question is, what is functional programming? Does Python follow a functional programming style? Answer. Functional programming is a programming paradigm that emphasizes the use of pure functions, immutability, and the avoidance of side effects. In functional programming, functions are first-class citizens and are treated as building blocks that can be combined to create complex programs. Functional programming has several key features, including pure functions, functions that have no side effects, meaning they don't modify the state of the program or interact with the outside world. Immutable data structures that cannot be modified after they are created, which makes it easier to reason about the behavior of the program. Higher-order functions that take other functions as arguments or return functions as results. Python is not a purely functional programming language, but it does have some functional programming features and supports functional programming techniques. What are difference between deep and shallow copies in Python? Shallow copy does the task of creating new objects storing references of original elements. This does not undergo recursion to create copies of nested objects. It just copies the reference details of nested objects. While deep copy creates an independent and new copy of an object and even copies all the nested objects of the original element recursively. Next question is, what is a dynamically typed language? Answer. Typed languages are the languages in which we define the type of data type and it will be known by the machine at the compile time or at runtime. Typed languages can be classified into two categories. Statically typed languages. In this type of language, the data type of a variable is known at the compile time, which means the programmer has to specify the data type of a variable at the time of its declaration. Dynamically typed languages. These are the languages that do not require any predefined data type for any variable as it is interpreted at runtime by the machine itself. In these languages, interpreters assign the data type to a variable at runtime depending on its value. Next question is, what are the difference between list and tuple in Python? Answer. Here is the difference between list and tuple. 1. Lists are mutable data type while tuples are immutable data type. 2. Lists consume more memory while tuple consumes less memory as compared to the list. 3. The list is better for performing operations, such as insertion and deletion, while a tuple data type is appropriate for accessing the elements. 4. A tuple data type is appropriate for accessing the elements while the implication of iterations is comparatively faster. Next question is, which sorting technique is used by sort and sorted functions of Python? Answer. Python uses the tim-sort algorithm for sorting. It's a stable sorting whose worst case is big O, n log n. It's a hybrid sorting algorithm, derived from merge sort and insertion sort, designed to perform well on many kinds of real-world data. That's all for this video. If you like this video and find useful, please like and subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to share with your friends.